In the past few years, we've heard the term free agents and been told we would all need to become one in order to succeed. The recent economic structures have helped to promote this concept as reality. Where do we get the tools to take control of our career path in the present and future? Welcome to the Career Confidante with your host, Marie Zimenoff. Marie and her guest experts are here to provide you with the tools you need to move forward and achieve your career goals. Now, here is Marie Zimenoff.
Hello and welcome to the Career Confidante, and we're glad you're joining us today. And you are going to be excited to listen into this session because you're going to get some tips on building your resilience. So we are in a time of unprecedented change, and things are always changing, but even more so today. And today we have a guest with us, Beth Benatti Kennedy, who has 20 years as a leadership and executive coach, resiliency training expert, and she has literally written 2 books on the subject of resilience. Most recently, the Rethinking Resilience, 99 Ways to Recharge Your Career and Life. And then previously, Career Recharge, 5 Strategies to Boost Resilience and Beat Burnout. So Beth, we're so excited to have you here with us today. Thank you for joining me.
You're welcome. Thank you, Marie. Great to be here.
Yeah. So you were doing career coaching, and tell me a little bit about what led you to focus on resilience.
Yeah, so it actually all goes back to my dad. My dad was an incredible man. He had his own business, a moving company in Long Island City. And as a little girl, I used to go on moving jobs with him, and he had this amazing ability to just make everyone feel like they were the most important person in the room. And what happened was he had these great attributes. He was an amazing leader, but he also was a workaholic and struggled with serious depression. So as a child and as a teenager, I always wanted to help him, but I didn't know how. So fast forward, I go to college and I major in psychology, of course. And my first internship was with a company called Stress Care in New York City. And it was for executives dealing with too much stress. And there I was again. I was on this journey to help my dad. And I go to graduate school, land my dream job after as a school counselor, and felt like I would retire from this job. I absolutely loved it. I was using all these resources, still seeing my dad struggling so much, but just wanting to make a difference in his life. And year 7, I started going down what I call the burnout escalator. There was so much exhaustion. I was working with so many burnt out teachers. I was so frustrated, and I knew I needed to make a career change. And now I realize how hard it is for clients to make career changes because it took me 2 years, but I had this very lucky opportunity to develop a career counseling program for the Gillette Company. And I started as a consultant part-time, and over 2 years, I became 40 hours a week. And I started using this model throughout the company. And before long, I was doing career counseling on the factory floor with the managers, with the vice presidents. I was bringing in coaches, and I loved it. I was in a state of flow. Year 16 there, P&G buys Gillette, and they tap me on the shoulder, they do an audit, and they say, "We do not value the services that you're doing." And I was devastated because I just felt like I found this perfect place in my life. And I was offered from Procter & Gamble to transition all these employees that no longer wanted to stay with the company. And I noticed that were 5 incredible attributes, the ones that really thrived and landed, which I had then stayed in touch with and ended up coaching in other companies, which became my Bonatti Resiliency Model. And that is well-being, self-awareness, brand, connection, and innovation. So although my dad did die way too young, he's definitely the legacy and just is someone I talk about all the time because I learned so much about him. And it's the reason why I have this career that I love.
Oh, wow. What a story. So this inspiration, it keeps going. And you mentioned your model there briefly, but to have lived through those career transitions yourself, I'm guessing resilience isn't just something that you've learned about, but it's something that you've experienced the power of as well.
Yeah, both times working in the Boston public schools, I really thought I would still be there today. And I have to say, I was exercising, I was doing these things that I thought would keep me moving forward. And that's when I learned myself how complex resilience is and how complex burnout is. Because just it's so much work, and an important part is really asking for help, which I think a lot of people don't realize is a huge part of being resilient.
Yes, yes. And yeah, but you've got your own definition of it too, because I know it is one of those terms that's very big and broad. So
Yes.
how do you define it?
So it's interesting. I see resilience. First, I want to talk about what it's not, because I think that's important. To me, resilience is not being able to do everything and anything and work so hard that at the end of the day, we're just wiped out, but we're successful because we did it. See, to me, that's not resilience. And sometimes we hear this word grit, and sometimes, to me, resilience is we move forward through challenges and change by having a toolbox that we access. And it's not always going to be, there will be hard days. There will be days we're in flow. There will be wonderful days, but it's really about moving forward, but accessing tools so that we can move forward.
Yeah, that word grit is interesting, isn't it?
Yes.
Because it is important, but there's this place, there's like this fine line, right?
Yes. And it's interesting. I tend to attract very driven, motivated clients. And we spend a lot of time talking about what success means and what resilience means, because many people that are very successful are also falling apart. That just because we might have this giant vice president position, if at the end of the day we're not fulfilled and we're not, making the kind of difference we want to make, are we really successful and are we really resilient? So I think there is a lot to unpack.
Yes, yes. Well, and that comes into this the importance of resilience, because you started out with that story of your father and the health piece.
Yeah.
But the importance of resilience is so much more than that too. I mean, sometimes people think, oh, I'll go do some self-care and now I'm more resilient, right?
Yes, yes. And an example is I actually had a client who was running marathons, but during his coaching sessions, he would say, Beth, I am a complete mess. I'm not the leader I used to be. So sometimes, we think running or exercise is the answer. It's a huge piece of it. Well-being is a huge piece, but there's so many other facets.
Yes. Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about that, the importance of that.
Yeah. So I think we have to remember that it's kind of like a puzzle. And I see 5 key areas. It is our well-being, but it's also self-awareness. I feel like is a piece we all need to spend a lot more time on. And for me, self-awareness is, the word we're hearing a lot of since the pandemic, purpose. Why do we get up in the morning? But it's also, what kind of mindset do we have? And it doesn't mean being positive all the time, but really thinking about how are we showing up? And then I'm a big believer in understanding how we're hardwired. So I spend a lot of time, it doesn't matter what assessments you use, figuring out how we're hardwired, what's our personality type, so we can flex in this world and all be able to move forward together rather than just thinking my way is the highway.
Yes, I love that. Okay, so
Yeah.
we're thinking about all of those pieces, and then the importance in terms of our work and our life. Like, how do people who are more resilient, what does that mean for them?
So it's really interesting now, fascinating since the pandemic, we're really seeing that individuals that are resilient are able to manage some of these changes, like you mentioned in the beginning, that are taking place every day. So on my block this morning, walking my dog, I've heard people complaining, now I'm back to the office 5 days a week, and someone else saying, hey, but that's great, we can get together more. But then there's other ones complaining, now I can't get my wash done. So it's it's interesting. It's this roller coaster ride. So I think when we're resilient, we're able to collect the information, then figure out, okay, what is going to work for me? How do I tweak it? fine tune it so that I can move forward, and to realize for everyone, it's going to be different. And that's really important.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we talk about this in our career change sessions with people, but you're also going and talking about this to companies as well. When a company brings you in to talk about resilience, what's going on in that company that they're thinking about this big picture?
So it's very interesting. What I'm finding now is companies are actually finally seeing resilience as a competency. So it's being offered a bunch of different ways. Some of my clients, it's being offered as a full day class that I teach. Some of them, it's a once a month hour module. But I think what's exciting is from the CEO level, and I've had a chance to work with a lot of CEOs, they're seeing that resilient employees are productive, impactful, but also really model leadership for others. Because we all know, we used to think career is separate from family, but now we know it's all blended together. So if we understand this concept of resilience, which is having tools, but also having a culture where people can move forward despite the challenges, then it's this great, exciting culture where people respect one another and people thrive. So I think that's what I love that, we heard a lot of this during the pandemic. We want to thrive and not just survive. And I think we all need to really think about, what does that mean?
I'm excited that companies are thinking about that and that they're bringing you and other colleagues in to talk about it. So we're going to dive in a little bit more in terms of how do people develop resilience and what does that resilience mindset look like? And we're going to go into that a little bit deeper when we get back. We're going to take a short break. Just a reminder that our show is sponsored by Career Thought Leaders and Resume Writing Academy, and we train career services providers. So if you are in the career services industry, I encourage you to check out our resources, our YouTube channel, so that you can get those tools to better help your clients. And if you are in the career search process, you'll find directories of professionals on our sites to help you with that process. So we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we're going to dive in further to how do you build your resilience and your resilient mindset. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
Follow Voice America at facebook.com/Voice America for juicy updates from your favorite radio shows and podcasts.
You know that the career landscape has changed and that you need to be proactive about managing your career. You can have the foresight, skills, and confidence you need to take charge of your career and seize opportunities. A strategic advantage and career expert, Marie Zimenoff has helped thousands of leaders like you get focused, get found, and get hired. Visit getcareersmart.com to find out more. That's getcareersmart.com or call 800-521-2080 to schedule your complimentary consultation.
Voice America programs are now available on your favorite connected device, including Amazon, Alexa, and Google Home. Through streams with Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, and iHeartRadio, listening to your favorite show is as easy as saying the show name followed by the word podcast.
Hey, Alexa, play Finding Your Frequency podcast.
If that doesn't work, try adding on TuneIn or on iHeartRadio or on Apple Podcasts.
When it comes to business, you'll find the experts here. Voice America Business Network.
You are tuned in to the Career Confidant with Marie Zimenoff. If you have a question or comment for Marie or her guest today, please send an email to marie@strategicadvantage.com. Now, back to the Career Confidant.
Welcome back to the Career Confidant. And today we're chatting with Beth Benatti Kennedy about resilience. And we've talked a little bit about what resilience is and why it's important and how it permeates all the pieces of our life and work and really shows up in so many different ways, as you were saying, Beth, and isn't just about grit and gritting through things, but really having the tools that we need to do that. So share with us a little bit about how you help people develop resilience.
Sure. So the first thing I do for all my clients is a resilience benchmark, so that it takes less than 10 minutes. It assesses them on these 5 areas: well-being, self-awareness, brand, connection, and innovation. so they can get a snapshot. Okay, this is where I fall. And then, as we all know, we have to start small. So what's that one area that I need to work on to begin with? Thanks to you, Marie, and your organization, brand is a piece where many of my clients realize that is what I need to focus on, because I've been great on my well-being. I understand my self-awareness. I'm excellent at connection. They're usually top in their field and great at innovation, but my brand is just a disaster. So then we have a specific plan for brand. And for anyone on this call that's not familiar, you've probably heard the word personal brand a zillion times when you think about Nike and McDonald's and all these other companies. But in the career industry, the way I define brand is your attributes, your strengths, and the difference and impact you make in your role, which affects your reputation. And the reason why that's so important in resilience is we want to be able to be in our career and be ourselves, and so that we can shine. So that's why it's so important to take some time and really learn about your brand. So for each of those areas, depending on which one they score the lowest in, we start with one at a time. And again, there's always someone that says, let's do 2 or 3 at a time, and we may do that as well. But for each area of my model, and after they take the roadmap, after they take the assessment, they get a roadmap which has specific strategies for each area.
Oh, I love that. Because then you can kind of figure out what is it that's going to help me build that resilience. And I love that you further defined brand, because a lot of times people think about that as, my colors and my signature. It's like, no. It's who are you and who do you show up as? And you're so right that when those two things are not in alignment, if you're not showing up as who you really are, to an extent, of course, in the workplace, then you're always putting more and more strain on yourself. So when you, maybe one other area, because we walked through brand a little bit. Walk me through one more of the 5 areas in terms of what that might look like for someone.
I think another one that seems very simple, but isn't quite as simple as we think, is connection. Mm-hmm. So I always say that networking is one of those words many of us can't stand. So change that to connection. And I define connection as really cultivating relationships to the point where I have my clients have a connection plan. So every Friday, I have something that I call Friday 5. They set their timer for 5 minutes. It can be a spreadsheet. It could be an old-fashioned notebook. And they think about, whether you're job searching or happily employed in your job, who do I need to connect with today, this week, or next month? So in only 5 minutes, once a week, you can take it, you can assess and have a strategy and a plan. Because often what happens is, say you're in a position and you're ready, I'm really ready to learn about another company. All of a sudden you realize you may have LinkedIn going, but are you cultivating those relationships? Do you spend time with people? Do you check in with people? So we know that connection is something that takes time and energy, and we have to build trust. So I have received so many thank yous from clients saying that connections, that 5-minute strategy has helped me a lot. So that's one quick, easy strategy we can all apply this week.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Well, and when I think about connections too, it's, you've got connections at work. You've also got connections outside of work. And how are you maintaining those? Because sometimes, depending on people's career level, they might have too much focus in one place or the other. And then it just creates that gap. So if I'm just focused on building relationships at work, then when I lose that job, I don't have that resilience, because I don't have those relationships outside of the workplace to help buoy me and support me, or help me find the next thing, whatever that might look like. And so I think about that as well. I love the 5 minutes in terms of really thinking about who are you staying in touch with and how are you building those relationships. That's great.
Yeah. And one of the things to remember is it can be so simple, like just sending a text message. Mm-hmm. How was your day? I just, heard from someone this morning from your professional organization, Marie, saying that, checking in with you. Happy New Year. I was like, wow, this is so perfect that we're having this podcast. And I just heard from one of Marie's colleagues, so. Yeah. It's, I think, thinking simple. And the other thing about resilience is to realize that it's not just a simple strategy for everybody. For all of us, we have to figure out what are those areas we need to work on. It's almost like a mosaic. It's a customized plan. So for all of us to think about what is the one or two things I can work on that will help me move forward. So I think that's really important.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, so there's these actions that we're talking about people taking, but I always talk about in the coaching space, like there's the actions you take and then there's the mindset running river underneath. And if we are just doing the actions, but we're not managing the mindset, it can wash away our growth, right? Because when we get depressed or we get whatever it might be, and of course, depression isn't a mindset, but it's part of that flow of when we're not working on our big picture way that we think about life, that we think about ourselves. So how do you help people with that mindset piece as well?
I'm so happy you asked that question, because there's a concept some of you may be familiar with on this call, which has just been really important to me. I would say with clients the last 5 years when I talk about mindset and purpose, and that's Ikigai. And that comes from the Japanese culture. And what many people don't realize is the reason why Ikigai is so powerful, it's really about thinking about 5 pillars. And I want to share all of them with you because they really connect so strongly with resilience. The first one is starting small. So whatever you're doing, focus on the details and take steps towards the goal. So keep it really small. So again, with mindset, we might be having a bad week, but remind ourselves, what's that little thing I might want to do for my exercise today? It might just be going around the block once, keeping it small. The second part of Ikigai is accepting yourself. And this really fits in a lot with my model. It's about that brand piece. Celebrate who you are and embrace your true self. So don't try to be, if I'm someone who gets super excited, even with my clients, I'm not going to just change my personality because maybe that person's a lot calmer than me. We all should come out as our true self. The third one is harmony and sustainability. And this is the piece about connection. And for Ikigai, what they talk about is relying on others and building a strong support community. So again, really important with mindset. What we know, the research tell us is that there is so much loneliness right now, and it's really causing a real issue in our world. So connection it's so important to find what I call the people that fill your bucket, that appreciate you and support you. So that's number 3. Number 4 is one of my favorites, and it's the joy of little things. Finding those small joys in life. If you have children, when they say thank you to you, or they're enjoying something special. If you have an animal, taking them for a walk. For me, sometimes it's just looking at the ocean. So what are those small joys? And again, going back to your question with mindset, what are those little tiny things I can do? Maybe it's holding that cup of tea in the morning or a cup of coffee and just saying, today's going to be a good day, giving myself a positive intention. And the 5th one is being in the here and now. So it's finding your flow and being present in the moment. And again, that directly connects with mindset, because the past sometimes can be very challenging. There's so many challenges going right in the entire world right now. But what can we do today? What do we have control over to move us forward? So I want to really emphasize those 5 pillars directly connect to mindset, but directly connect with resilience.
Yes. Oh, those are so powerful. So right before we got on this call, I was talking to someone who's in the path of the wildfires in California, but also trying to job search. And they're just thinking about, okay, is this the right time? Yes, I want to focus on my job search today. I want to do that. And it's hard and there's so many things all over the globe that impact almost each and every one of us, almost personally, right?
Yes.
It's hard.
Yes, and I think it's so important to admit that it's hard, because I think that's part of being resilient, and to really name it and then say, okay, how can I reset? And sometimes that could be deep breathing. Sometimes that could be going for a walk, getting out into nature, and then going back to that first pillar. How can I just move a little bit forward? Yeah. And I think with these awful wildfires, I have another client dealing with that as well. And how do they just continue to move forward despite these challenges? But I do think it's first getting upset and frustrated and realizing how hard it is.
Yeah. Well, one of the actions that people who are listening today could do is to follow some of your work and go and check out your books. So tell us a little bit about where they can find the books and how they can connect with you.
Yes. So the first thing I'd like to say is please connect with me on LinkedIn at Beth Benatti Kennedy. And if you're interested in either books, Career Recharge or Rethink Resilience, they're both available on Barnes & Noble, a lot of the indie bookstores, Amazon. And I would like to invite all of you, if you would like to take the Resilience Benchmark for free, you're more than welcome to hop onto my website, bethkennedy.com, scroll down. And I chose during the pandemic to make it available to everyone because I feel like part of my mission is to prevent burnout. And I feel like the best way to start is to benchmark your resilience.
Oh, I love that. So they can go and they can take the recharge. Tell us the names of the book one more time. And both those are available on Amazon?
Yes, they're both available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. Many of the indie bookstores carry them. And my first book is called Career Recharge, 5 Strategies to Boost Resilience and Beat Burnout. And then my second book is actually, I have 2 co-authors, Karthik and Ben, and they're both scientists. One gentleman I actually coached. The other one is a colleague. And that book is called Rethink Resilience, 99 Ways to Recharge Your Career and Life. So check them out. And thanks for joining me today.
Yes. Well, and it's just a happy accident that we actually also have our certified personal branding strategist coming up. So if you're a coach and you're interested in the personal brand strategist work that we were talking about in terms of helping people figure out who they are, who they want to be, and how they're going to show up authentically at work. And we've got our coach training program for that coming up starting on February 12th. So you can add that to your repertoire as Beth has added it to hers. So go connect with Beth and learn more about her work on resilience. We are going to say goodbye to Beth for now, but we will be back here and as I'll continue the conversation on resilience and some of the other points that Beth brought up here. So thank you so much for joining us, Beth, and we will be right back here on the Career Confidante.
Voice America is on LinkedIn. Connect with us today.
You know that the career landscape has changed and that you need to be proactive about managing your career. You can have the foresight, skills, and confidence you need to take charge of your career and seize opportunities. A strategic advantage and career expert, Marie Zimenoff has helped thousands of leaders like you get focused, get found, and get hired. Visit getcareersmart.com to find out more. That's getcareersmart.com or call 800-521-2080 to schedule your complimentary consultation.
Have you become a member yet? Sign up now to become a member of Voice America. It's always free and easy. Plus, you get to take advantage of some great member benefits. Get unlimited access to millions of hours of on-demand content across all of our channels. Keep track of your favorite episodes, shows, and hosts in your own customizable library. Find out what shows you might be interested in based on your favorites. Plus, you get insider access with our newsletter. Membership gives you more. Sign up at voiceamerica.com and click register at the top right.
When it comes to business, you'll find the experts here. Voice America Business Network.
You are tuned in to the Career Confidante with Marie Zimenoff. If you have a question or comment for Marie or her guest today, please send an email to marie@strategicadvantage.com. Now, back to the Career Confidante.
So today we were talking with Beth Benatti Kennedy about resilience and how you can improve your resilience and what resilience means and what it looks like. And there are a lot of different models for resilience out there. And you can go and look and figure out, what what's going to fit for you the best. But I do encourage us to think about resilience as a multi-part process where it is working on the internal pieces of how am I reacting to things, how am I setting myself up to be able to have the energy to manage things, as well as how do I have my external environment set up. So what's going on externally? Because resilience can't just be, self-care and eating well and all of that. That's great. There's also this piece of how am I managing my boundaries and the work life around me so that those things even matter, because no matter how well you eat, if you've got a huge job and tons of bills and you're just barely making ends meet, there's always going to be a stress level that's going to exceed the amount of stress your body can handle, no matter how good you're taking care of yourself. So I always think about it in a few different ways. Now, I think the challenge is for most of us, and definitely for certain sectors of the population more than others, maybe those who childcare is their main responsibility, or elderly parent care is their main responsibility, or spouse care for someone that's got a disability or something, or many other situations similar to that, where you've got someone else that's depending on you in a real big way. Setting boundaries is challenging because it oftentimes means we also have to set up systems or even tell those people no. So I was joking around with another working mom the other day. I said, these people say, set boundaries, say no, take more time for yourself. But there's the reality piece to that of when you have other people who are depending on you, that you really can only do that if you take the time to set up other structures for that to happen, which of course means that it's more time and more effort. It's just not as simple as saying no. And I know in our culture a lot, we talk about how important it is for people to say no, but I feel like a lot of times we talk about that in a way that makes it sound really easy, or like it's just a you thing that you're not saying no because you don't have a backbone or whatever. But saying no is challenging. Saying no sometimes requires a lot of planning and process, and actually saying yes to a whole bunch of things so that you can say no to that thing that you need time away from. And that's the challenge, right? Is that it's not as easy, even at work. I'll give a work example. So people will say, say no if you're too busy. What are you going to say no to your boss, say no to that new project? But there's a lot that goes on to be behind that. One, saying no to that might not mean that you don't have to do something else. And there might be something else that fills right back in behind that you also have to say no to or whatever. Two, saying no to whatever it might be at work can cause problems that then you don't get something else you want at work. And doesn't mean we have to say yes to get that other thing, but we do want to think through that. And if I'm going to say no to this, what will the implications be? And how might I still get to where I want to go while saying no to this other thing I have to say no to? It's just, that there are a lot of, it's usually more complicated than just you in some vacuum are unable to say no. And I want to acknowledge that and just know that if you are struggling with overwhelm, all the things in life and work, that to acknowledge there's going to be some work that goes into setting up those boundaries. It's not simple, and it's not just a one-word solution to getting that piece of it rearranged so that you can do whatever you want to do. Just thinking about that the other day, because, a lot of the things that small entrepreneurs, solopreneurs try to outsource, it's very hard. It's hard to outsource your business, hard to outsource managing your email, managing your calendar, doing your social media, whatever it might be as an independent business person. Or I've even talked to some individuals within organizations who are thinking about doing some of those things because they don't have support anymore. They've got slimmed down teams, and yet they realize that they're not spending their time where they want to be spending it at work or at home. And we want to find those things that might be easiest for us to hand off to someone else. And for a lot of entrepreneurs, what they've found is that sometimes the home life stuff is easier. So I can hire someone to clean my house. It's a fairly clear cut activity, and instead of trying to hire someone to manage my business when I might not be quite ready to do that yet, or do my social media or whatever it might be, that this is an easier place to hand off. But even there's a process that goes into that. So if you're in that space where you're trying to find some boundaries, so you can do some of the things that Beth was talking about. I hear you, I see you, and it isn't as easy as everyone makes it sound. That doesn't mean that you can't take one small step towards that, maybe even today. What would one small step look like towards getting more of your time, being able to spend your time doing more of the things you want to do? What would one small step of that look like today? The other thing that I want to acknowledge that Beth said is the power of compassion for ourselves. And this is one of those strange areas that it's really opposing thoughts. So we often think that if I'm satisfied with myself, if I'm appreciative, if I'm compassionate about who I am, then I'll become lazy. I won't feel like I need to work. I won't keep pushing myself to get better. But what we find in neuroscience is that actually when we don't feel good about ourselves, we push ourselves to be better from a negative place. So it's usually either fear-driven or comparison-driven. It isn't coming from a good energy. And so oftentimes then we're never satisfied because there's always going to be somebody better. There's always going to be something to run from, or, we're always going to have those fears and those negative thoughts that could push us to improve. But when it comes from a place of compassion, of knowing who we are, being comfortable in who we are, being, even happy maybe with who we are, then we can decide what we advance, what we learn, what we push, what we grow from a different place. So instead of coming from that place of fear and comparison, it might come from the place of strategy or passion or growth or whatever it might be, those more positive forces that push us to learn and grow in a way that isn't connected to the fear-based ways. So just challenging in ourselves that compassion and growth are separate and seeing them as actually multiplying forces when they work together. So when I feel good about myself, then I'm growing into a place I want to be growing into, instead of growing into a place I feel like I have to grow to get respect, to get love, or whatever it might be, that are those fear-based and negative things that are pushing me. And so for me, that's a regular check-in, because like many of us, we, not in a negative way or it just was the way that many of us were raised to be those achievers in that way, that it was achieving to get approval, achieving to get respect, achieving to get love, although that probably wasn't real. It was part of our internal belief system that was created when we were young. And so I have to consistently think about that, of why am I doing this? What is it that I'm trying to achieve? Am I coming at this from a negative place today? And it is kind of a daily check-in, especially when we get overwhelmed, just to think about, okay, where is the need to accomplish all of these things coming from? Because changing jobs, changing careers will not fix your overwhelm if you are still going to show up to that new job or that new career with that same internal child, if you will, overperforming to earn whatever it feels like it wants to earn. So that's piece that we have to understand first. And this is really the power of that understanding, that self-acceptance, that self-awareness that Beth was talking about, that we talk about in our personal branding process. And again, I understand that the words personal branding, most people don't associate with that, but at the very core of it, starting way back in 2001, that's what this personal branding movement was all about. Yes, it's the business of you, the company of you, but it's really the foundation of it, just like the foundation of a company, is knowing what do you want to do? What do you do well? What's your natural strengths? Because when we can tap into that and leverage that, use that, show up with that every day, we will then be more successful. and leadership training programs in companies, they've started to figure this out years ago. And it's one of the reasons that people bring in our graduates from the personal branding process to work with teams, to work with individuals, to say, okay, we need you to know and be comfortable and confident in who you are and what you stand for, because then you can combine that with what the company stands for. And it's so much stronger. It's not this hollow person trying to show up for the company where we can see through it. It doesn't feel right? It feels a little weird, versus you knowing who you are, so that then you can kind of put on that company coat, but you're still shining through. You're still building that in and able to represent the company in a way that's authentic to you and aligns with the company brand, the corporate brand. So those pieces, it's just so fascinating to watch coaches go through it. So when we do our certified personal brand strategist program, the coaches that are going through the program have to do the work themselves, and just how transformational it is to sit and really do that work, to think about who am I and what do I value and what is my purpose? What am I passionate about? And then how do I want that to show up at work? And what does that mean for the work that I do, for the types of organizations that I work with or in, and all of those pieces starting to line up a little bit more together than they're going to if we just walk into it and don't think about that piece. So that resilience, just digging a little bit deeper and understanding the self-compassion and how that works into it. And then it kind of aligns in with that personal branding. So we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we're going to dig a little bit deeper into the concept she was talking around connection and how you might leverage that connection activity she was talking about with the 5-Minute Fridays. So we'll take a short break and we'll be right back in just a few minutes.
Voice America is on your favorite smart speaker. If you have Alexa or Google Home, go ahead and give us a try.
Hey Alexa, play Finding Your Frequency podcast on TuneIn.
You know that the career landscape has changed and that you need to be proactive about managing your career. You can have the foresight, skills, and confidence you need to take charge of your career and seize opportunities. A strategic advantage and career expert, Marie Zimenoff has helped thousands of leaders like you get focused, get found, and get hired. Visit getcareersmart.com to find out more. That's getcareersmart.com or call 800-521-2080 to schedule your complimentary consultation.
A little birdie told me Voice America is on X. Follow us at Voice America TRN.
Are you a business owner, 1099 contractor, part-time employee, or volunteer who needs group health coverage you can actually afford? Do you know a nonprofit who would benefit from unlimited zero-cost funding? How about cost reduction, school safety, mental health wellness, and more? All these and more are fair game on Finding Certainty. If you want more certainty in your own life, you are not alone. Join us on the Voice America Business Channel. Find your own brand of certainty and realize your personal American dream with Finding Certainty, hosted by Patrick Lang. Let's unwrap the certainty experience together.
Voice America Business Network, the bottom line in business.
You are tuned in to the Career Confidante with Marie Zimenoff. If you have a question or comment for Marie or her guest today, please send an email to marie@strategicadvantage.com. Now, back to the Career Confidante.
So today we've been talking about resilience, and we were talking with Beth Benatti Kennedy. And if you haven't had a chance yet, go and check out her books so that you can learn more about resilience. And she's got that 99 tips for resilience. So Beth Benatti Kennedy, you find her on LinkedIn. You can find her links there to check out those books. So one of the things that she talked about was this 5 on Fridays connection process and tip, which I loved. So just thinking about some kind of systematic way to stay in touch with the people who are your supporters, who are your advocates, right? What does that look like for you? And 5 on Fridays. So she had people thinking about 5 people you could connect with today, next week, or next month. When I talk to people, a lot of times I'll talk about mapping out their network in terms of a few different things. So one, research has shown that you have more mobility in the workforce if you have what they call what do they call it? I'm going to say diverse, but that's not really the right word. But the idea is that I know people inside my company, maybe inside my industry, and then maybe in different types of companies and industries where it's tangential. So, for instance, if I'm working with an engineer, we don't want them to just have a bunch of engineers that they're talking to. Then when they get laid off, the challenge is that they don't know very many people. Could introduce them to the managers, can introduce them to the hiring managers, the executives, the HR people, the salespeople, right? All they know is engineers. So when we have a broader network, it doesn't have to be bigger, but just broader, then I can have more relationships that would have different conversations going on inside of them. So LinkedIn used to have this thing, and it's been a while, where they mapped your network for you, and they would show you like the different pockets of types of people that you knew. So I might know engineers, I've got salespeople, maybe I've got leaders, maybe I've got consultants, or whatever it might be that are in these different pockets. So I would sit down with my clients and I'd map out, who do you know in this part? So who do you know inside your division? Who do you know outside of your division, but still in your company? Who do you know in your industry who's not in your company? Who do you know outside of all of those things, but it's somewhat still tangential related to work? So maybe coaches or people that you used to work with, but now they work somewhere else, kind of outside of that space, whatever. So we put these kinds of things together. Then we go outside of your professional sphere and we brainstorm the same thing. So who do you know that you get together with on a regular basis outside of work? Kids, parents that you're friends with, or church people, or maybe you've got a hobby, it's a writing group that you go to, or a book club that you go to, or like I said, I go to a Rotary club. So it's figuring out, where do you have those pockets of people that you're connected with outside of work? And then once you've got those buckets, if you will, and sometimes we'll do it on a spreadsheet where each kind of person is indicated in some way, and we can say, okay, so let's pick one person from each bucket to follow up with this month, one person from each bucket to follow up with next month. Whatever cadence works for you, works for your people if you're a career services person working with people. But what that does is it helps people keep that broader network engaged. And again, it's not about numbers. It doesn't have to be like a bigger network, but we're just being more thoughtful about forming those relationships and maintaining those relationships with people who are in different areas of our life. Because like I said, if you're only friends or only work colleagues, only relationships with the other engineers in your office, the other thing that could happen is that when you get laid off, you feel awkward, or you don't have the opportunity as much to connect with them directly anymore because you're not working there anymore. And so now it's left this bigger hole in your network than it could if you were more diversified in the where people are when you're building those relationships. The other thing is that it could help you move faster. So if you are keeping in touch with people that are in the broader industry, if you're keeping in touch with people who are in the broader company outside of your division, then when you go in to make those relationships, or you want to make a change, or whatever it might be, now you've got those people that can be an entree in to another circle. They can introduce you to people that are more like the people you want to be working with, or they can help you get connected to some community resources, or maybe an opportunity in the community that you could volunteer, spend some of that time while you're looking for work, or whatever it might be. They can help with that, those different types of introductions. Beth also mentioned the loneliness epidemic that they're talking about in the US, but also worldwide, that people just say they're lonelier And yet we all want to work from home, right? It's this really strange dichotomy. We want to work from home, but then we're really lonely. And so thinking about our relationships in those different buckets can also help us make sure that we're staying connected to some kind of community, even if it's not our work community, in person. And I do emphasize the in-person piece because it is huge. There are chemicals in our brain that we do not get through Zoom, right? You're not going to get oxytocin. You're not going to build those kinds of relationships, but also the feelings you need as a human when you're just doing things over the internet. So finding those places where you can go and connect in person with real live people, and that is huge. Whether it's a professional networking group, a church group like my Rotary Club, a service club that you're in charge of, you join a nonprofit board, they could use them, they could use you. So finding something where you're going in person. And in fact, just last week, I was supposed to go to Rotary. I haven't been to Rotary for a while because of all types of things. And I was supposed to go last week, and then it snowed and it was too much. And so now finally tomorrow, we're going to make it. We're going to go. And it will be good to see everyone in person. And again, you'll get the brain chemicals that you get from seeing people in person and hugging and doing all of those things that we need to do as humans. Yes, even those who are more introverted, and building those relationships to that point where they do provide that good feeling is important. And I hope that you're having an opportunity to do that. And then you put some of those opportunities on your calendar for 2025. One of them that if you are in the career services field, we have our Career Thought Leaders Annual Professional Development Symposium. It's coming up April 6th through 9th in Baltimore, back where it all started 15 years ago, as far as Career Thought Leaders goes. So I hope that if you are in the career space, you'll think about joining us. If you have any questions or would love more information on that, you can always reach out to me at Marie at careerthoughtleaders.com. So Marie at careerthoughtleaders.com. Check it out. Let me know what you think. And if no matter what industry you are in, I'm guessing there's some professional development opportunities for you in person. So go and figure that out. Go and research that. Ask your colleagues, where are they going? Ask some of those different people in your office, those sales, marketing, engineers, whoever's not like you. Ask them what types of events they're going to this year in person so that you can find some ways to make some relationships, to build some relationships, rekindle or form some new ones, and get those good feelings flowing, as well as those relationships that will help buoy you throughout the moves that are going to come in the future in your career. And we will be right here again next week on the Career Confidante. We look forward to hearing from you, any topics that you'd like to learn about, and we'll keep sharing how you can take control of your own career and be ready to make these changes. So we'll see you next week right back here on the Career Confidante.
Thank you for listening to the Career Confidante. Marie Zimenoff will return again with another terrific guest next Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 11 a.m. Pacific on the Voice America Business Channel. Be sure to join us then.